Oh, do we have a new light? Mamma mia. I had to put sunglasses on today. So many things are happening with the JWs right now, and I think it's really worth talking about. I don't usually comment on what the JWs are doing, and I don't usually comment on their news and the new light and stuff like this. I think there are other channels that do this better, but I will comment on this one, and there is a specific reason why. Stay with me, and you'll find out. So why all the changes? So many changes. Women can wear pants now. Guys don't have to wear tie. I tell you, when I was a GW, I hated wearing a tie. It was like one of those things that the moment I got into the car in the parking lot, it was like, take this thing off. I just didn't like it. But of course, it was a requirement. And now you don't have to wear it unless you have a part. Women can wear Spanx. Look at that. That is something actually that I mentioned, I think, before. That's something that they might actually get rid of because it was unwritten law. You would never find a watchtower that would require women to wear skirts, but it was one of those unwritten laws where in order for you to get baptized and remain in good standing, you had to follow that unwritten rule. If somebody wants to join me, please, I put it in the comment and click on the link if you can, and then you can join and discuss this with me. And we can discuss this in a little bit further. If you want to call in, here's my number, and feel free to call in, and maybe we'll discuss what's happening today. Big announcements. Now, the reason why I want to discuss this, and usually I don't discuss what JWs are doing and the new light and stuff, but I want you to watch today's news about Jeffrey Jackson's giving the news and all the changes that are happening, because I think it's very significant. It helps you to understand how they think and why they're truly making the changes. So obviously there was a big change about children. So if the child is young and got baptized and then did something wrong, they don't of course say anything what the person could do wrong. But if the sin was big enough that normally an adult person would face disfellowshipping or at least a judicial committee right away, they changed it now to, oh no, it is a meeting with parents and the child will be there. And then if the child does not want to change and persists with the wrongdoing, that could be not 100%, but it could be facing a judicial committee. But what happens with JWs is this. First, they make a decision. And then after they make a decision, they're looking for scriptures to back up the decision. Then they go to the congregation and they're saying, hey, look, based on the prayer and the study of the Bible, based on these scriptures, we made this decision. It's always reversed. I mentioned that on many videos because I saw that pattern when I was an elder, and I realized first we choose who we want to nominate for ministerial servant or an elder. Then we vote. And then when the vote passes, then and only then we're looking at the scriptures. And then when we go to the congregation, we tell people, open up the Bible, read the scriptures. Based on these scriptures, we chose this guy to be an elder or ministerial servant. It is always reversed. And as a matter of fact, we always say that it was the other way around. It's like shooting blindfoldedly. Like you put blindfolds on your eyes, you shoot an arrow on the wall, and then you go and somebody paints the target afterwards. And then you go to the people and say, look, if it wasn't for the Holy Spirit, how could this happen? I mean, the best archers wouldn't be able to do this. Olympians wouldn't be able to do this. And this guy who's a rookie with blindfolds on did this. It was his arrow. Nobody moved it. One shot. This is what they're doing right now. They're basically making their decision first, what they want to do. And then after the decision is made, and the decision always will help them somehow, usually number one, legally, number two, financially, and number three, to increase the numbers. Remember that order. Number one is legal. So, what was legal? Of course, we know Norway. They lost in Norway. Because they lost in Norway, they had to make adjustments when it comes to how to treat this fellowship people. So now, guess what? You can reach out to this fellowship people. You can say hi to them at the Kingdom Hall. And think about it. They said, well, it's up to somebody's Bible trained conscience how long they want to talk to the person. You should be short conversation. Hi, how are you? We're glad to see you here. But we should not have a lengthy conversation. I mean, which scripture are you going to use for that? To what extent? And you can just imagine somebody coming up to somebody who's disfellowship, saying, hi, how are you doing? I'm glad to see you there. And watching the clock. It's been 15 seconds that we've been talking to this guy. Is it 15 seconds okay? Or 30 seconds it's okay? How about 2 minutes? What if we talk to the person on the parking lot? Is parking lot okay? How about on the bus stop? If they're taking the same bus with me to the Kingdom Hall, is it okay if I talk to them? Because I talked to them inside the Kingdom Hall. Can I talk to them inside the bus on the way to the Kingdom Hall or on the way back home? What if the person lives next to me? Ah, man. It's crazy how these people are looking for the governing body to give them all the details. And if the governing body doesn't give them the details, then they live in fear. They live in fear because what happens if? I know, because I live there too. I remember when I walk into the Kingdom Hall and this fellowship guy said hi to me. He says, hi, how are you? And I'm like, this guy, he's been coming for the meetings for 6 months and he never said hi to me. And now he's saying hi to me when I'm trying to become an elder. I'm a ministerial servant and there's an elder standing right behind me. And I said, hi, I'm doing fine. And how are you? And I'm like freaking out because of this fellowship person in front of the elder is talking to me. And now I'm talking to him. So I just ran to the washroom like an idiot, pretending that I have to go to the washroom now. And then the whole meeting, I was like, oh, I have sinned. This is horrible. The meeting ends and everybody talks to him. And I'm like, what's going on? Why are people talking to him? And they're like, oh, yeah, you missed a meeting on Thursday. He was reinstated. And I'm so glad the sin has not entered me. It's crazy what these people believe and what they install in people's minds. It is really, really crazy. So what happens now? Were they coming up with new laws? They're coming up with new ideas. They're coming up with new things. And believe me, I'm super happy about it. I am. I'm thrilled because these people are so oppressed with countless laws of what they have to do. Now you don't have to report the hours. You don't have to count the hours. You don't have to count all the books and magazines that you have placed. None of that stuff is happening anymore. Guys don't have to wear ties, no jacket in service or in the Kingdom Hall. If they don't have a part, women can wear pants. Guys can have beards. I mean, this is in a short period of time. But you could see how the decisions are basically being made because of first legal, second because of finances, and third because they want to increase the numbers. So I strongly believe that the disfellowshipping arrangements, it's changing softly, and I'm really hoping within the next 6 months, a year, or 6 years, or whatever, they will eventually get rid of this disfellowshipping. They can't just get rid of it from one day to the next, but it's really going the right direction, isn't it? When they slowly starting to loosen up a little bit, and they're saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we could help these people out. I mean, after all, I don't know if you guys remember the scriptures. Even Jesus talked to Satan, right? He was in the desert. Those who believe this stuff, clearly Jesus did not shun him. And Satan had access to to what? To a gathering in heaven when Jehovah gathered his angels right before they started talking about Job. So anyhow, there's tons of scriptures that would truly contradict the idea of this fellowshipping. There is nothing in the Bible that would tell you, oh, we have to collect 2 or 3 elders and create a committee for here's a list of sins, and this is how you punish people for those sins. None of that stuff exists or existed in the first century. It was all made up recently among Jehovah's Witnesses, and they copied other people and other sects and other cults before they established those things themselves. But I'm very glad they're doing this. I'm very glad, seriously, because first of all, Jehovah's Witnesses will have more normal life, and the less these people oppress the others, the better. That's one. Second, it actually helps them to think. Yes, every time there is a change, it opens up the thought of we've been wrong, and now there is a new light, a new change. I'm wondering what else will change. What else I'm believing right now as the truth that will never change, and yet it could. This is one of the top questions that if you're trying to wake somebody up, whether it's your spouse or your child or somebody really close to you, it's one of the first questions that you could ask completely free without worry or concern that you are going to come out as somebody who is attacking their faith. You ask them, what is it that you think they're going to change next? I mean, so many changes are happening so rapidly, so quickly. It is completely innocent to ask that question. Just ask, what do you think they're going to change next? And then you can share very easily. Hey, you know what? I think this could they could change this. I don't see any scriptural reasons why this is still happening. Maybe they'll change that. Right? And then because of so many changes, you can very easily say, you know what? I never believed they would change the prohibition of beards. I never believed we would be able to go to service wearing pants or not wearing a tie and all those things. You would say, I never believed those things would ever happen during my lifetime, and yet they did. So I'm wondering what else. It's a very good question to ask. What else will be changed? See, the things that are happening. Well, somebody says, what birthdays might be the next birthday and holidays. I think some what they call, like Christmas and stuff like that. I think that would be a very, very big deal because previously that was this fellowshipping offense. But they might loosen up on some of the holidays. I don't know, like maybe Mother's Day, Father's Day, and stuff like this. But maybe. I don't know. To be honest, I did not expect them to change those things that quickly, but they did. So, hey, what do I know? They probably have already planned other changes. They just can't dump them all at once. So they're doing very progressive change. Within the next 2, 5, 10 years, this religion will be completely unrecognizable. I remember when I was a kid, actually my mother, I was not there for the conversation, but my uncle, who's Catholic, told my mother, who was a Jehovah's Witness, he said, your religion is still very young. This is why you have all those rules and restrictions. Give it time, give it 50 years, and you'll see the restrictions will be uplifted, changed, modified, and you're going to be closer to the Catholic Church. And my mom, of course, put up a fight and says, no way, now we're the true religion, and this is what makes us true, and the separation of the world, and blah, blah, blah. And then 35 years later, she admitted, yeah, he was right. He was right. We're coming closer and closer to being just like the mainstream Christian religions out there. Somebody says, all can partake of the emblems at the memorial. That is also something very interesting because I personally know of some active Jehovah's Witnesses who do not follow this idea of bread and wine. They do believe that they will be on earth in paradise, but at the same time, they believe that everybody should partake from the bread and wine. And they go to the memorial, they pass the bread and wine, then they go home and they drink wine and they break bread. It's interesting how they how they try to, maneuver among the craziness that is happening there. Okay, anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to address them. Or if you can, call me in or join me here live. I'm gonna post the link one more time. It is always a pleasure to discuss those things with somebody else. Yeah, JW religion, of course they're young, they compared to the religions who are hundreds of years old, compared to what, 140, 130 years old, something like that. And it's very young religion. Okay, one thing I wanted to discuss with you, since right now they are saying you can talk to these fellowship ones as long as you are there to encourage them to return. So it's already happening, because I've seen it on Facebook. People are already posting their parents who did not talk to them for like 30 plus years, all of a sudden remembered, hey, we have a child, we have a son or a daughter. And they sending text messages, look, Jehovah is giving you another chance for you to return. And I know many of you will be like, please remember, these people's minds are programmed. They can't think for themselves. They're waiting for the governing body members to tell them what they can and cannot do, what they can and cannot say, what they can and cannot read, what they can wear and how, whether they can grow their own beards. They don't know what to do until it comes from the authority figures, which is the governing body. Okay, so please don't blame your parents, don't blame the average Jehovah's Witness for not thinking for themselves, because truthfully, most of us couldn't when we were in that environment. That environment really blocks people's minds. He blocked mine, pretty sure he blocked yours when you were there. You have to go through the process of awakening in order for you to start thinking critically. Well, how do you do that? Somebody's like, how do you wake up somebody's brain? Number one is you have to lead, as an example. You have to overcome fear. The moment you remove fear is the moment the brain will start searching for something else. First, you got to be curious. The person's got to be curious. There's usually a question that you can ask. Like I mentioned before, what do you think is going to be next change? And something that the person will start getting curious. Then you got to remove the fear, and then the awakening happens. But what I want to talk to you about, what to do or what to say when they call, and they will call. So most elders, not all of them, but most elders are being trained how to talk to this fellowship people, or people who are weak in the truth, as they say. So once every 6 months, CEO comes to the congregation and he's asking the elders this question: what did you guys do in order to rekindle the faith in Jehovah with the weak ones, or the ones who are inactive, or the disfellowship ones? And the elders are like, we haven't done shit. So they don't want to do that. So they like, okay, before the memorial, we're going to invite them to the memorial. That's like the easiest thing to do. So they usually assign 2 elders to work together in service, and they have a list, and they'll go, okay, we'll go to this guy, we'll go to this guy, this lady. And they go and they invite them to the memorial. They might call you. Your family members might call you. Maybe even friends will call you. It's okay now to talk to these fellowship people, as long as it's about bringing them in. So previously, they would say, oh, if it's your family member, only discuss family issues, but don't discuss spiritual issues. We're shining people spiritually. Remember that? We're shining people spiritually only. That's what the disfellowshipping is all about. And when it comes to family matters, of course, the person could talk about family matters. Now they're flipping the coin. They're saying, well, you could talk to these fellowship ones as long as it is about the spiritual thing. So now call them, invite them to the meeting, invite them to the memorial, invite them to the assembly, invite them to return to Jehovah, and whatever it is. So it's the opposite to what they were preaching before. Complete 190 degrees. Sorry, 180. It's weird, but that's I think it's a step in the good direction, because there are some witnesses who would use this as an excuse. What do I mean by that? They are driven by fear. They're afraid of what will people say in the congregation. So they don't want to contact their family members or their friends because they're so afraid somebody will catch them. Somebody will catch them that they're talking to them. But if now they have an excuse, well, yeah, of course I talked to them. I was inviting them to the meeting for 3 hours straight, 5 days a week. Now it's almost like, yeah, there will be no consequences to you if you are associating with a disfellowship person, as long as you have that excuse that you're trying to bring the person in. This will open the door to many Jehovah's Witnesses to wake up, and to a lot of ex Jehovah's Witnesses to actually get their family back, get some of their friends back. Because these people who are Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe they will never change their beliefs. Maybe they strongly believe in Jehovah, paradise, Jesus, and all that stuff. That's fine. Everybody has a right to believe whatever they want. But because they were afraid to contact somebody who was outside, somebody who was really dear to them, now that fear is slowly disappearing, because now you could talk to them. You could talk to them during the meeting. You could try to invite them in. This will change. And hopefully, this direction, if it keeps on going, eventually, maybe they will get rid of this disfellowshipping altogether. But it will take time. Don't expect this to be tomorrow. I'm pretty sure this is in years to come. They have to do it slowly, because if they did it from one day to the next, oh boy, they would lose a lot of members. So what to say to these people when they come knocking on the door, on their calling? Please remember why they're doing this. Okay, they're not consciously trying to manipulate you, although you might feel like this, because there's always a hook with the invitation or a call. But they truly believe this. They truly believe the end is coming. They truly believe that the Armageddon is coming, and you're gonna die unless you join them. So please remember about their intent. They actually care about you, and they don't want you to die. And when you have that in mind, you're like, oh, you know what? These people, that's what they think. They giving me what they have the best. That is not what I believe. That is not what I consider the best way of life. But that's what they consider the best way of life. And they're trying to give me what they believe it's the best. It's like a child who's giving you a popsicle. Okay? You might not like popsicles. Maybe you think it's full of sugar, it's not even good for you. Okay? Maybe you're on a diet. I don't know what it is. A child gives you a popsicle. What do? Even if you don't eat it, you take it and you say, thank you. Why? Because you know that these people are like children. Their minds are like children. Seriously. And you can't expect them to think for themselves, because they can't. They are actually controlled by that organization and the manipulation that it's happening. Thank them for the fact that they thought of you. Thank them that they came. Nobody paid them. Even if you join, they're not going to get financial gain from it. They're volunteering their time. They're volunteering their life. And they actually, in their best way, care about what you're going to do with your life. Thank them for it. Take it. You don't have to go. You don't have to attend. You don't even have to take the invitation. But please don't be rude to them. Because if you're rude, if you attack them, if you mock them, if you make fun of them, it creates that wall bigger and bigger. It creates that resentment. And the moment they walk away, they're not going to wake up. They're not going to, they're going to hear maybe you telling them about the child molestation or these problems and that problem and all the bad stuff that happened to you, all the resentment, you're going to just go and vomit from you. Are they going to come back? Is that going to build a bridge? Not a chance. It's going to build more resentment, and it's going to build their faith, and they're going to feel like, you know what? This is why they're warning us about apostates. This is why they're saying, okay, we could talk to the disfellowship ones who maybe sinned with sex or something like that, but do not talk to the apostates, because this is exactly why. But I tell you, the so-called apostates who are thinking a little bit more clear, they could influence Jehovah's Witnesses. They could. This is why they're saying, don't go talk to them. But you can't influence them for the better if you're trying to attack them. Trying to attack them doesn't work. Look at this. Look, I'm going to show you something. Put your hands like this. Nobody's watching. Just do it. I know you have one hand stronger than the other. And if you push with right, let's say you push with right hand, you push against the left. Push it as strong as you can. Push. Push as strong as you can. And look, where are the hands? They're still in the same spot. My right hand is stronger than my left, and yet they're still in the same spot. How is that possible? I didn't even say push back. I never said that. But we subconsciously do anyways. The moment we try to push, it's the moment we're going to push back, even if we do it to ourselves. That's right. If you push Jehovah's Witness, he will push back. Well, most of them will not even push back. They're just going to run. They're trying to run away. So please don't do that. It is the best method is love. Just show that you care, because you will break their pattern. They're like, hey, you know what? These people are supposed to be these angry apostates, and they're not. They're super kind people, and they're happy, and they're not supposed to be happy. They're supposed to be living in misery. And it doesn't match what the governing body is telling us. Please be a kind person to them, just like you are to a child who will come and give you a gift that maybe you don't want. That's all what I can say. Now, I also have to tell you this. It's going to be most likely quite emotional experience for a lot of you, especially if you're going to see, it's going to be triggering to see some of the elders in the congregation. Maybe some of you got disfellowship by the elder, and then the same guy who disfellowship you now is showing up at your door. Of course, it's going to be emotional. I would be too. But they're emotional too. I remember when I got my list to go door to door to all the disfellowship ones and invite them to the memorial, I was shaking. And they were even told me that if you don't have another elder, don't take a publisher with you. Just go by yourself to these doors. And I'm going by myself, and I'm like, bring Jehovah, please be with me. Send some angel to stand right next to me, because this apostate is gonna come out and bite my head off. Trust me, they are emotional too, and they don't know what to expect, because there's such a hatred that they build up towards so-called apostates, such a fear, that majority of the elders, when they go, they have to go, two of them, to support each other, but they're pretty scared too. They don't know what to expect, and they have usually the surprise moment when they go there, and you don't expect them, but because you know the memorial is coming, you could anticipate what if. You know how Jehovah's Witnesses are always preparing what to say at the door. Now you get to sit down for a moment. It will take maybe a minute or two, and try to put it in your head. If my family member will contact me, if the elders will contact me, if somebody, a friend or whoever will contact me, or even Jehovah's Witnesses who don't know me, don't know my address, come to knock on my door, what should I tell them? And spend even 5 minutes practicing what you're going to say. So when the moment happens, you're not going to react to that moment based on your emotions and your triggers, but it's going to be a prepared answer or a conversation based on your training, not based on your emotional response. It's very important, because very often when we're highly emotional, guess what? Our logical and thinking skills go out the window. And the moment the emotions go down, it's like, oh man, I really wanted to tell them this and this and this, and I said something completely wrong. I'm guilty of it too. When I'm nervous, half of my intelligence goes out the window. It's actually proven that if you're nervous, anywhere between 50 to 60% of IQ goes down, because our brain, instead of thinking with our frontal cortex, I think it goes down to the reptilian brain, when you got the fight and flight or freeze response, and that part of the brain cannot think critically. So practice ahead of time, so you have it in your mind. What is it that you want to say? And be kind. That's all what I can inspire you to do. At the same time, yeah, I'm happy if people will leave me alone. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I don't want elders to come. You know what's so funny? Depending on the person, some people they they leave, they don't get this fellowship, they just stop going, and nobody bothers them. Nobody calls them. Nobody tries to manipulate them. Nobody putting pressure on them. Nothing. And then one person is very happy about that. They're like, oh, yeah, they gave me space. I'm happy about it. They left me alone. They didn't nag me. They didn't put pressure on me. They didn't try to manipulate me. I'm happy about it. I walked away on my own. Exactly the same situation. Another person will say, where's the love? Nobody cared about me. Nobody even called me. Nobody checked on me. Nobody, you know, checked if I'm okay. And nobody wanted to help me and blah, blah, blah. Nobody took interest. I thought these people are my spiritual family and they don't care about me. And yet the situation is exactly the same. Different perspective. Now, when people leave and the elders do contact you, then one person would say, they are abusive. They don't want to leave me alone. They are stalking me. They're harassing me. They're constantly texting me and calling and this and that, right? And usually when that happens, I ask the person, did you ask them to stop? Well, I gave them hints. I'm like, no, no, no. If you want the elders to stop calling you, all what you have to do is please do not contact me anymore and respect my decision. And that's it. Very, very rarely they will keep pushing. And if they do, you repeat the same thing. And if they ask why, you say for personal reasons. Don't explain nothing. The moment you start explaining yourself, okay, the worse it gets because they think, oh, this person does not understand something. Maybe I can bring them a magazine that will explain this issue and this and that. Like, no, there is no reasoning with these people. You make a decision to walk away. If they call you, if they contact you, it's usually a routine that they're trying to contact you. You just say, I don't want any contact. Thank you very much. I appreciate your interest. I don't want any contact. I'm not, and they cannot disfellowship you for it either. See, that's another thing. I've heard a lot of people are actually very worried that if they stop going to the meetings, they're gonna be disfellowshipped. No, not going to the meetings is not a disfellowshipping offense. You can stop going to service, you can stop going to the meetings, you can become inactive, as they say, as long as you don't cross the line, as long as you don't start going to other churches, you don't start praying to Mary or whatever, as long as you don't celebrate Christmas or birthdays or anything like this or pick up smoking, they will leave you alone. They have no reason to disfellowship you. There are small exceptions to the rule when I heard about people who literally got disfellowship for not going to the meetings. and there was no logical explanation of why they threw a committee at them. The person sometimes didn't even know there was a committee. It's rare when that happens, but I'm just telling you about how it happens most of the time. You walk away and you don't tell them nothing. And when they ask, you simply say, I don't want to discuss it. And when they ask why, you say for personal reasons. And if they keep pushing, you ask them a question. Can you please respect my wishes? And then they'll have to say yes or no. And chances are they're going to say yes. I'll respect your wishes. You made it clear. Why? This is important because a lot of elders really feel like they are responsible for their sheep. So if the CEO comes and says, what did you do in your little group to help the inactive one? And he's going to say, no, I did nothing. No, he's going to feel bad for not doing anything. But if you give him that answer that you don't want any contact for personal reasons, then he has an explanation that he will give to the CEO and the case is closed. Case is closed. Otherwise, it's open. It keeps coming out constantly, popping up to the top. So make a decision, cut yourself off, don't explain nothing. And usually you need about, depending on the person and where you live in the congregation, but I would say 3 years minimum, and usually up to 5 years. 3 to 5 years of not crossing any of their lines, meaning no Christmas tree in front of the house, no birthdays. If you want to do them, make sure that they don't see you. Uh, don't join another church or an army or anything like this, because if they see you doing that within a short period of time, they will throw a committee. However, if you want to, let's say, become an activist, and you let enough time pass, then in a congregation, if nobody considers you to be a witness and you're no longer viewed as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of times the elders will say, okay, forget it. This guy is already out. He's not coming to the meetings for the last 5 years. We're not going to chase him, right? We're just going to let him be. That doesn't mean that the person will never get this fellowship, but chances are, if enough time passed, they will not worry about it. What else? You guys have any questions? I'll be happy to explain them. And what is it that you think about the changes? I think the changes are also happening because they want to increase the numbers. I think they're bleeding the numbers right now. And if they lower the standards, basically by getting rid of tiny little things, throwing a bone to their members, it will help. It will help because less and less rules, then people will feel more liberated and more freedom that would allow more people to join because they won't feel so strict. Those who are staying in, those who are being raised in it, they will also feel a lot more comfortable, right? So I remember as a kid when I was going to service and you have to, wear a tie and the shirt and you go door to door and a friend from school sees you and this is not how you dress every day, right? Like, what's going on? Like, what is you doing here at the door? A lot of times for the young person is very embarrassing. I remember myself, I was, like not hoping to knock on somebody's door and it's like, oh, here's my teacher or here's my friend from school, or that's usually very uncomfortable situation. But if it's more relaxed and not so formal, a lot of people will feel more normal, even go into service because you won't stand out so much. Yeah, I think that will definitely help to increase the numbers. Okay. If you guys got any more questions? Any questions? I don't know. I see no questions. Blood issue. Oh, see, I would really love to see changes when it comes to blood policy. That would be wonderful. This is, who cares if you believe in 1914 or 607 or whether you're going to wear pants or grow beard? Who cares about those things? Truthfully, that's not harming anybody, at least not permanently. You might feel embarrassed a little bit, you might feel uncomfortable, but it's not really that big of a deal. But if it comes to blood, oh boy, is that a big of a deal? This could mean life and death. And when you're deciding for another human, you're deciding for your spouse, you're deciding for your kids, you're deciding about somebody else's life, and that's pretty sad. Yeah, it is. I think those who want to be PMO, physically in and mentally out, this is one of the best times. Seriously. Not only do you don't have to go to the meetings, you can actually just join on Zoom, put your name there, and you don't even have to listen. I know many Jehovah's Witnesses who are actually working like this. They're PMOs, they're connecting on Zoom, they don't listen to one word of the meeting. You can watch TV or doing something else. And people think, yeah, this person is at the meeting. That's one. So you don't even have to go to service. You just, yeah, I preach about Jehovah this month, and then that's good enough. So you can remain in what they call good standing and do almost nothing. It is one of the best times to be a PMO compared to even 10 years ago when I was waking up. That was not possible. There was no Zoom meetings back then. So it was much harder for me to be a PMO because I had to go to all the meetings. I had to serve. I had to go to service. I had to report the hours. It was much more difficult to be a PMO, and today it's much easier. So it's good. Selling of the Kingdom Halls. Well, that's one of the reasons why I said they're making financial decisions. as one of the top priorities, is because when it comes to selling kingdom halls, first of all, they bought a piece of land that was sometimes given to them, or they bought a really crappy place, and they used free labor and a lot of donations to build the place, and then later on they sold it. Worse yet, they were charging mortgage on that place, and when the mortgage was paid off, they decided to sell the kingdom hall, and they kept the money. Yeah, it's called a scam. Yeah, that's you can't really call it anything else. And when they gave up the mortgages, they said, "Well, the mortgages are forgiven. You should just keep the payments forever. They will never stop." Well, if you ask me, if I went to the bank and the bank said, "Don't, I'm forgiving your mortgage. You just keep the payments until you die." And when you die, the house is still not yours or your kids. So it's gonna be ours. I mean, it's like a scam 101. Oh boy. Okay, Jack, I just turned to your channel. What might be the best way to present these changes to PMOs to make to maybe help them start questioning? I mentioned that previously on the video. I don't know what point you joined, but I think the changes that are happening right now are a great way to start conversations, because as you know, the hardest part is to start the conversation so it goes the right direction. So because the changes are happening, and they're happening quite rapidly, and they're happening basically from the governing body down, you could start by asking, "Oh, so many changes. What do you think about them?" And the person will gladly tell you how they feel about it. And then you say, "What else do you think will change?" And then they may actually tell you what is it that they don't like about the organization, what is that they're hoping things will change. So you could say, "Oh, I'm so glad they got rid of the ties. I never liked ties." Like, start with little things. Tiny with Jehovah's Witnesses is tiny, tiny little things, right? And then you might mention something that you don't like, whether it's the disfellowshipping arrangement or the blood issue or the I don't know, child molestation cases, whatever it is that you don't like about Jehovah's Witness policy, and say, "I really hope that maybe they will change this or adjust this." Don't say get rid of, or don't say that's a lie, or no, 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 no. You say change, adjust, improve. Use these kind of words to say that you're on their side and you're just hoping that they will come to see something that you're seeing. And I think it's very important to say this sentence: "I could be wrong." That's how you can start. "I could be wrong, but I think that this and this should be changed." Right? It's very important to align with these people first before you make any statement or a question that could lead these people to think differently. Mind blown. Just mailed the resignation letter. I'm so glad I'm no longer following the governing body blindly. Well, I personally don't encourage people to write a letter of disassociation. I encourage people just to walk away and don't play by the rules. But I do understand why writing that kind of a letter would be very advantageous to a person's psychological well-being, especially if they don't have family inside the organization. Cutting yourself off from one day to the next could be very relieving, and it's like, okay, cut off, close the chapter, I'm moving on. But if you do have family, especially a large family, if you have a spouse, if you have kids, if you have parents, then cutting yourself off sometimes it's a gift that keeps on giving, because you might be dealing with, like, let's say your parents are older and then you have to take care of them. Maybe dementia, maybe stroke, maybe any of those kind of problems, and then you as a child has the responsibility to take care of your aging parents. It would be very difficult for your JW parents to receive help from somebody who was disfellowshipped, right? So please keep that in mind. They will treat you totally different if you are, as we call, inactive. So please consider that. Okay. Anything else? They will always keep the kingdom holds. Of course, they will keep the kingdom holds because it's one of the greatest investments there is. They're not paying taxes. They have the land, and they do the renovations or build up for free. Basically, they just live material. And believe me, I saw how much they're charging for little things. Since I'm a contractor myself, and when they were building my kingdom hall, I was building my house for the first time, and I was building a triplex, not just a regular house, where there was 3 kitchens, 4 bathrooms, 3 levels, and I built everything, paying for labor. Back then, that was 17 years ago. I paid everything, all labor, material, equipment, contractors, permits, everything, $200,000. That's how much it took me to build it. At the same time, literally the same time, we were building our Kingdom Hall, where all labor was free. The Kingdom Hall was just, if you count the square footage, was very close to the square footage of my house, because my house had 3 levels and Kingdom Hall had 1 level. There's no kitchen, and there's just 2 bathrooms, and the price tag was $650,000. Where the $200,000 that I spent on building my house, I would say 70% of that was labor. So now you have volunteers building a Kingdom Hall, and a price tag was $650,000. There were other brothers who also are contractors. There was one brother who actually was a big contractor, was building subdivisions. And I asked him, like, bro, like, seriously, do you think it's okay to charge our congregation $650,000 in mortgage that we have to pay for material only? And he told me, it's like, it beats me, man. It beats me. When I heard that announcement, I was shocked myself, because for that kind of money, you could build, back then, a whole bunch of houses, right? Could build a Kingdom Hall himself, probably, for cheaper than that, with paying for labor. So I don't know. Anyways, they are making big changes. I am very happy about the changes. I hope you guys are happy about those changes too. But you will see these changes that they're making. It's a great example of how they're thinking, why they're making the changes, and how people in that organization think. They basically think as much as they're allowed to think. They do as much as they're allowed to do. And they will behave only as much as they're allowed to behave. Don't blame them for not going outside of those boundaries. It was hard for us too. And if they call on you, if they try to invite you, please be kind. You don't have to accept anything. You don't have to change your mind. You don't have to get into debates. Just remember about the intent. It will be much easier for you. Practice what you're going to say. Prepare your mind for it. So when the moment happens, you're not triggered and replying with emotions. You're replying with something that it's very thought out. Okay, thanks, guys. And I'll see you in the next one.